Whoa! Hi there, Coach Sage Canada of SageRunning.com here. The training talk on race day nutrition specific to ultra endurance events, half marathons, marathons, mountain races, you name it, Ironman. I've done a lot of talks on this before in the past, and you know, honestly, my philosophy's changed a bit over the year. And I'm going to start off this training talk with actual race day and kind of training specific nutrition strategies and fuel sources and what I share with my opinion here, but also kind of end the training talk with a more broad spectrum of general nutrition that I also believe in. And again, you know, disclaimer, I'm obviously not a medical doctor, I'm not a registered dietitian. That's a disclaimer. If you, consult your doctor before trying anything new. But, you know, and a lot of people will be like, "Ah, Sage, like, you've had stomach issues in some of your ultra marathon races." Like, 3 out of my last 24 ultra marathons, I've had some stomach issues. Western States 100-mile endurance run probably being the biggest one. And, you know, some of it's tied to what you eat during the race. Some of it could be tied to what you eat before the race. But also some of it could be really tied to how you execute your race if you get massively dehydrated, which I actually think is probably a #1 cause of nausea and vomiting, is actually getting a really messed up gut from dehydration. And then also the fact that, you know, in that race I was 10 minutes under course record pace on a really hot day at 50 miles, way over my head. So if you push your body really hard in endurance events, you know, GI tract blood flow gets diverted from your stomach and intestines and goes to your muscles, your working muscles. And that causes a lot of people to have stomach distress, whether it's puking and vomiting or even diarrhea and horrible things like that. So, you know, I used to throw up during 5Ks in high school, so it's not a unique problem to just race day nutrition, and you can't just break apart a couple variables and be like, "Oh, definitely Sage screwed up you know, his race day nutrition and that's why he did this," when you could be massively dehydrated because you didn't have enough electrolytes and things like that. So the other big race that I had nausea problems in, and I will admit this was a sugar too much too soon type of thing, was in the North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile race, San Francisco. I did win. It was a really muddy day, 2014, 50 miles. I threw up at mile 30, and I think part of that was taking in a lot of soda pop, a lot of Coke, filled my whole 20-ounce handheld bottle of Coke, and then popping a bunch of gels from an old gel sponsor. The one I'm going to plug today is my new fuel source sponsor, which I'm excited to announce, and that will be a sponsor plug, I'm warning you. But it goes in line with my philosophy of more healthy eating, a more holistic type of approach to not just race day nutrition and performance, but overall health, staying lean, you know, eating healthy, eating clean, trying to, you know, live in a way that reduces carbon footprints, but also hopefully something that will help with longevity and help people dial in their nutrition so we could curb problems in the US like obesity and type 2 diabetes and cancer even maybe, and things like that. So that'll be part 2 of the talk. But part #1, race day nutrition. You're doing a marathon, you're doing an ultra marathon, you're doing an Ironman, some long event. There's a good chance you're probably going to need to be taking in some sort of calories during that race, or you're going to bonk really, really hard. And, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole fat burning debate on here. You've seen some YouTube comments, and the diet fads, so to speak, seem to really go in cycles, and I don't know why, because Atkins came out like 20 years ago talking about low carb and things like that. And obviously, as a whole foods plant-based athlete, by default, my diet is generally very high carb and low fat and even relatively low protein compared to the standard American diet. But that's for part 2 of this talk. Race day nutrition, yeah, you want to be burning a mix of fat. So we got, you know, some trail butter here, burning a mix of fat. This is fat stores on your body already though. Even if you're lean, even if you're 5-6% body fat for a guy who's super lean, you still have enough fat to go a really long way. So you're burning some fat stores. You're burning fat, but at the same time, you're burning carbs. You're burning carbs in the form of glycogen in your muscle stores, also in your liver. And, you know, the general rule of thumb, marathon running, you got 20 miles of pretty high intensity running. Maybe it's only 2 hours, maybe it's only 90 minutes if you're at altitude going uphill. You got that much glycogen stores in your muscles to burn before you're gonna bonk and hit the wall if you don't take in any excess calories. Now, we start talking about taking in calories, and during a marathon, road marathon, it's a lot easier to carry some packets of energy with you. This is spring energy. We don't even call it a gel because it's not really a gel. It's actually real food sources, real fruit energy, basmati rice, honey. Those are the ingredients of this type of gel. Actually, this one has peanut butter in it as well. But a blend of fuel that, you know, gives you some electrolytes, gives you some nutrients, but it's giving you some carbohydrates. Now, the thing with carbs is they get a bad rap, and all carbs are not created equal, just like all calories aren't created equal, right? A calorie isn't a calorie isn't a calorie. Carbohydrates come in totally different groups. We got, you know, things like refined sugars. We got a maltodextrin is used in a lot of gels, competing products to these, I will say. Maltodextrin, created in a lab, and, you know, that's a form of a polysaccharide. It's easy for the body to break down really fast, and it spikes, it has a very high glycemic index, right? Glycemic index is very high for quick energy. The problem with that is sometimes glycemic spike, high glycemic load, quick spike of quick energy, and really high sort of that kind of sugar rush, so to speak, also like things like soda pop, could cause people to have stomach problems because of a high osmolarity in the stomach. Can't even talk right. So, you know, quick uptake with sugar, North Face 50 mile. I've been eating pretty healthy and clean. I don't drink a lot of soda pop. I don't eat, you know, a ton of dessert and sweets, especially artificial, really packaged stuff like, you know, all these cookies and ice cream. I do eat cookies and ice cream, but not all the time. I wasn't used to chugging that much soda pop. In the past I was, because I ate junk food all the time, and I used to eat candy as a kid growing up. Not very much, but you know, your diet kind of determines what you could tolerate during a race, and so that's an important lesson there. Now, just because you can take in a fuel source doesn't mean you necessarily should, and under the stress of an ultra race or a marathon or an Ironman, that could cause some problems when it's coupled with muscular fatigue and dehydration and even things like the weather conditions. So, you know, you look at these types of energy packets, My Spring Energy, enter Sage, discount code, 10% discount just for you guys. That is a sponsor plug. This is my new sponsor. I'm excited to announce these guys though, because you look at the ingredients on here and you see rice, banana, honey, molasses, orange, dry plums, flaxseed oil, and beet extract. That's in this flavor. Actually, my favorite flavor has mango in it. Well, they chose ingredients, whole food ingredients, real things like fruit, which has been shown to be an excellent fuel source. It's also very tasty, chock full of vitamins and nutrients, and just directly put it in these packs for energy. And basically, it's not like the maltodextrin, it's not like the stuff created in a lab, which I think maybe you should be a little bit more skeptical of. And it's not like highly refined sugar. You know, people think of like, you know, white sugar, just pouring down sugar. Your body reacts differently. You know, basmati rice has a low glycemic load compared to even other forms of rice. Even, you know, the mango has a pretty low glycemic load as a fruit. So it's not like chugging this, you know, refined sugar in soda pop or in other competing actual products that are gelatinous. Because you look at the chemical structure. It's chemistry, and the guy who created this is an ultra runner who's also a biochemist. So, you know, I respect the science. It's very interesting to see, but you look at, you know, the molecular structure of these things and why your body reacts different ways. And like I said, a carbohydrate is not a carbohydrate. It's not a carbohydrate. How do you utilize fat as a fuel and carbohydrates as a fuel? And, you know, what happens on your body, whether it turns into fat or it's utilized as a fuel, and how quickly it is determined by the chemical structure and also the mix of ingredients. So, you know, that's a quick little in-depth thing on that. But, you know, whole fruit sources, whole foods sources is generally a good way to go. And if something's in a package and it's on your shelf and it's in this crazy powder package thing and it doesn't spoil for like 5 years, you might want to think to yourself, why is that? What chemicals are in this? Do they really occur? How far from natural source of fuel, from nature, have we derived these things from? And what effect will that have on my body? Not just on race day, but also maybe long term. And you know, when you talk about epidemics in the US, like obesity and type 2 diabetes, and all that, then you're talking about, you know, some real things that you could draw back these correlations. Again, of course, everyone likes to always say correlation is not causation, but another plug finally is they came out with this new electrolyte drink mix. It actually has apple juice in it. It's got a hint of some salt, but this will be a sponsor plug, but this will be what I will be using in my next ultra race, the Chuck and Nut 50K, as well as the Lake Sonoma 50 mile. You know, electrolytes in the drink, you mix this with water, you know. So race day nutrition strategy, taking between about 200 to 350 calories per hour, calories per hour. So, you know, you're looking at 3 gels per hour and a pop of this electrolyte fluid, which I believe is 70 calories, and I'll be mixing this in 16 ounces of water, which I will also be taking about an hour. So that calorie count is taking in all those things. You're getting a mix of you know, some different fuel sources, but more importantly, you're also hydrating with calories. You know, water mixed with this has some electrolytes in it. You know, it's got sodium and potassium, which you need because when you're working hard out on the marathon course or in an ultra marathon, you're sweating, you're losing sweat. Need to rehydrate. Hydration is very important. I think it's what gave me stomach issues in a couple of my races recently. So, you know, that's real key. Other people, you know, in longer races, they're like, oh, I'm doing a 100-mile mountain race. I'm doing the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc. What am I going to eat? Well, you're kind of at the mercy of the aid station sometimes. And then we go back to solid food. We go back to things like salted potatoes, you know, real food. We go back to fruit. You know, they fruit at a lot of aid stations, especially at races, international races, the ones I've done in Europe, for example. And, you know, some people try to go on M&Ms and Coca-Cola the whole time, but that's not for me anymore. That's not for me. I don't eat, you know, a ton. I don't go out of my way to eat a ton of refined sugar anymore. I don't think that's really a great form for you. But being said, I'm eating a lot of carbohydrates in the form of these real foods. You know, rice, basmati rice, that's what's in these things. So, you know, I did a race in Hong Kong. They actually had rice. I mean, rice with salt on it. It's basically, you know, a whole food type of option. Sometimes you even go for a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Things like that, pretzels, salty, sweet mix. So you're getting in that 200 to 350 calories per hour, but it's a work output. I mean, if you're at altitude, you have to take in more. If you're going uphill, you have to take in more. So maybe you're not like me. Maybe you're not taking, you know, a spring gel pack or spring energy every 20 minutes. Maybe you could go every 30 minutes, because maybe in that 30 minutes you cover 3 miles, whereas in that 30 minutes I covered 4 miles. So it is kind of a work output, you know. I have to take a pack every 5 miles during a marathon when I'm racing all out, trying to run a sub 2:20 marathon, right? Some people could go a little slower and maybe they take a little less, but the work output's there, and if you don't take anything by mile 20, if you're going full tilt, you're probably going to bonk and hit the wall. And if you're not hydrating in hot conditions, you're probably going to get really massively dehydrated. So, you know, there is some individual variation there with salt loss, sodium loss, sweat rate, things like that, where certain people are more susceptible to dehydration in hot conditions versus other people. Certain people, you know, like the colder conditions, and they don't have to take in quite as salty of a drink mix, so to speak. Salty to taste. I'm not quoting the exact sodium amount there, but, you know, a lot of people probably take, you know, if you're taking a concentrated form, big salt pill, salt cap, I won't name any brand names, but that could be too much, right? And, you know, throwing off that balance in your stomach is what could cause a lot of nausea and stomach distress and things like that. So it really is a fine balance mix, but, you know, in terms of like the fat burning, the idea of being on a really low carb diet, and we're getting into part 2 of the talk here on general nutrition, at least, you know, coming from my opinion. Yeah, you know, that's great. I could go out and run a 50-mile, flat 50-mile ultra probably on just water if I wanted to go pretty slow, if I wanted to go 10-minute mile pace. I'm sure I could go out there. I'd probably have to take some walk breaks in there, but, you know, I have enough fat on my body to burn as fuel to go 50 miles or you know, pretty far, and I'm taking sips of water. No external calories needed, no carbohydrate sources. But if I want to run that 50 miles at 6-minute mile pace, which I do, I'm gonna take some of these guys, and you know, we'll pull up some footage there. I did a training run, long run training run there last week during my 120-mile week, and you know, I went ahead and did a 26.2-mile run, long run. Took 3 of those on that, and was keeping a pretty decent pace. But you know, if I didn't take those, I could have done the marathon too. But it would have been a little harder to go that speed. I might have slowed down a little in the final 10K. Because I would have been bumping up against the wall, so to speak. And then again, it was a sub-maximal effort. But you know, I've rolled out at the Comrades Ultramarathon in South Africa, the largest and most competitive ultramarathon in the world, 55 miles with over 5,000 feet of climbing. You roll through that first marathon in the lead pack with those guys, a lot of them South African runners, and you know, I see what they're stuffing in. They're stuffing in carbs, they're stuffing in energy packs, they're taking in electrolyte drinks, and they're not just burning fat to run. I mean, we're rolling through the first marathon in 2:40 at Comrades after 3,000, 4,000 feet of climbing, a net uphill marathon, and that's just the first half of the race. Then you got the second half. But yeah, it's a matter of balancing your diet so that you're healthy, you're getting all the vitamins and nutrients you need to repair and recover your body, and to not be depleted in things that help your aerobic system, that help your body function naturally, to be healthy, to stay lean, to prevent type 2 diabetes, to lower the risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, and hopefully reduce the risk of cancer. Now, what's the #1 diet that's been shown to do that? Well, it's the only diet that's been shown to do that, and that's a whole foods, plant-based diet. It doesn't mean you have to be 100% vegan. It doesn't mean you have to be 100% vegetarian. That certainly helps, in my opinion, because by default, then you are eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And that's really the bottom line, I think, is most Americans need to just eat more fruits and vegetables. Eat your rainbow of fruits and vegetables, and you get, these nutrients that are in these things naturally, that your body could digest very easily. And it's not without all the excess preservatives and artificial flavors and refined sugar. You're eating high carbs, you're eating fruit, you're eating, it's a lot of sugar. Well, it's not a lot of sugar, it's fruit sugar. So you get a mix of fiber, that changes the glycemic index, right? You get a bunch of nutrients, you get potassium, right? You get a bunch of vitamins and nutrients and minerals, antioxidants, chock full in things like fruits and vegetables, at a relatively low calorie density. And so, if you're looking for weight loss and you're looking for effective strategies of fueling your body, that actually makes a lot of sense. Get a bunch of calories, you fill yourself up on volume, on fiber. You have to eat some pretty big salads to get full on a salad, right? And it gives you all these nutrients that you need for essential body function, but also hopefully to preserve your fitness and preserve your long-term health late into the future. And so, a lot of people do these things. They're like, I know a friend who did this, and my grandma ate cod liver every day and she lived to be 95, and all these stories, and that's great. And you could have your personal story, but then people call it, and I'm an experiment of n=1. The thing is, I don't like n=1. That's not real scientific driven data, right? That's just some observation. That's not a strong correlation value. That's, there's a ton of variables why people might, live to be a certain age. Some of them genetics that they're born with, but also other factors in their diet. And that's why it's so hard to manipulate or to look at variables in these peer-reviewed studies, even peer-reviewed studies in, scientific journals by all sorts of different, things that have all sorts of different bias. Try to show all these things and correlations with nutrient intake and macronutrients and different food types, and you have to look at those for bias. You have to look at those with how well do they control a lot of variables, and who is the study funded by? Who's the study funded by? Because this is big business. Diet, nutrition, the food industries, at least in the U.S., there's a lot of money being thrown into scientific research, and it's peer-reviewed research. But is this study funded by Atkins? Yeah, it was. Well, Could there have been a bias there? Yeah, maybe. Was this funded by, something affiliated with dairy products in the US? Well, yeah, maybe. Was it a cereal company? Things like that. So I'm saying look skeptically at studies and articles. Don't believe everything you hear. Even for me on here, I admit I have my own bias, and I'm not a scientist, but that's just kind of what I've observed. And to keep this training talk from going really, really long, basically, most people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. That's really kind of the bottom line. And that's the whole foods type of approach, whole foods, and very plant-based as well. Think of that in terms of getting in your nutrients. A lot of people be like, well, I got stress fractures, I got low bone density. Well, you have low bone density, you eat dairy all the time. Well, maybe because it doesn't always work like that. There are vegetables that have a lot of calcium in there, right? There are things that sap your bones of their strength, basically, right? Soda pop is horrible for people. Horrible. It's horrible for your teeth. It's horrible for your bones, right? And look at things that cause a lot of acidity, right? People talk about acidity and inflammation and their ability to recover as athletes when you're training. So it's a matter of what you could eat to fuel yourself, what tastes good also, don't forget taste, and what is going to help you get to that next level, and hopefully maybe improve your health in some aspect, and well-being, and quality of life ultimately. And other people say, they come off, everyone's got an opinion on diet, right? They're like, well, your body tells you naturally what you should eat, and we're all different, so we all want to eat this really varied diet. Final point on that is I don't think we are actually all that different. There are people that are born with very unique genetic predispositions maybe to certain things, and there's definitely differences between men and women. There's differences between our genetic makeup and ethnicities that make us maybe gravitate towards certain types of foods, certain geographies that capitalize on certain environments, and that's traditionally been that way through human evolution. But to say that people are all really, really different, some people should really have this kind of macros and these kind of macros and this type of food, I think is kind of missing the point. I think, our DNA is actually very, very close, and so what we could eat to thrive on could be very, very similar. And people say, well, you should eat what you crave, your body tells you naturally. Yeah, that's great, you can listen to your body, that's always good. The body does crave certain things at certain times, but the body is also programmed to always crave salts and sweets, and high fat things, right? So, if I ate how I felt every day, I would want chocolate cake for breakfast every day. Vegan chocolate cake, but that wouldn't be good for me probably. Maybe I get tired of that, maybe I'd crave something salty, maybe I'd want I don't know, some fried up tortillas or something with a bunch of salt on them. Well, that would be okay for a couple of times, but you wouldn't want to always just eat whatever you wanted all the time. That's why there are health problems, I think, especially with people of affluence. Ironically, sometimes you go to other places, rural areas where there's poverty, and people actually are sometimes a little bit healthier because they're having to farm their own vegetables in their backyard and things like that. So I'm getting way off on this rant here, but that's kind of my take. Feel free to comment below, argue against me. I know this is going to grind a lot of people's gears. It's a very sensitive subject, so sorry, I didn't mean to offend anyone, but that's just my opinion on things. Again, you can check out my Spring Energy gel sponsor, Sage, for a 10% discount code. Use the energy that I use or will be using in my future ultramarathon races. Again, stay hydrated. Try to eat more fruits and vegetables generally, and definitely stay tuned for more training tips on here. We got strength training videos coming at your way. We got the Training for UTMB vlog series that I'm doing, as well as more things that you guys want to vote up and think of. Thanks so much for subscribing. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all your support, all the Patreon supporters. Couldn't do this without you. So yeah, go ahead and you could subscribe there at that link, and check out one of our newer videos, more recent videos right there. But thanks so much, guys, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.